Hello, my friends. Welcome to our Smartsheet session for today. Today, we're going to be creating a stakeholder register. Now, the stakeholder register is a document that we use to understand our stakeholders better. We first of all capture information about the stakeholder's name, position, and then we begin to flesh that out. So let's get started. Let's hit create and sheet. And here we'll type in stakeholder register as a title. Now, as you create these titles, it's important for you to understand that in Smartsheet, you are not able to combine different fields the way you would in Excel. So you cannot merge cells. So a lot of stakeholder registers in Excel, you see the project manager name at the top. Well, you cannot do that. So you might just want to do that here. You might want to just say the PM is Joe Blogs, for example, and that information will show up when you're taking a look at the sheet. So let's put that in there. And stakeholder register, also the project title, let's say it's VBX11. We'll say okay. It'll create the sheet, and right there at the top, you'll be able to see the name of the project and also the project manager. So if that is something that is important to you to see the name of the PM at the top, that is where you need to do it. Now, let's begin to adjust these fields. We have a primary column. A lot of times we want our primary column to be something of importance. So our primary column is going to be the stakeholder name. And the next column, we're going to make that the position of the stakeholder in the firm. The next one is going to be the company, because you do know that your stakeholders could be in different companies. And you do know that your stakeholders, of course, can be contacted in different ways. So we'll put a contact phone number in there. Also, the role of the stakeholder is important. If there are any unique requirements, we want to put that in. We're definitely going to need a lot more columns. So let's put in a few more columns here. We're going to put in an expectation column. We're going to make this one the requirement. And the unique requirements, that is, we're also going to include a field for their influence and their interest. Now, you could choose to split that, right? Just because a stakeholder is interested does not mean that the stakeholder is influential. So we could actually split those. We could have one say influence, and we could have one say interest. So let's edit this, and let's get rid of the interest. And then let's also include a couple more. Let's include their level of power. And let's include their impact. So, you know, we have all sorts of grades in the world of stakeholder. We have influence, interest, or power, interest, influence, impact. So we could actually arrange these: power, interest, influence, impact. And that will give you the opportunity to say it's a high, it's a medium, it's a low, and so on. And then we can also have a category for our stakeholders. And their category, this is up to you. You know, we got 4 different categories in the world of PMI for project management professionals out there. You know what I'm talking about. You know, you could manage close and do all sorts of things, or you could classify them according to a stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. It really depends on you. So we could say the category using the SEAM model. We'll use the SEAM model. I'll break these down a little bit more as we go along. All right, so now that you've got your stakeholder fields, let's put in a few pieces of information here, just fictitious information. So we'll go ahead and put in some names. And remember, your stakeholders could be an entire firm, or they could be an individual. Let's put in the company name over here. Let's put in the position of the stakeholders, their position in the firm. Let's put in some contact numbers, and just so you know, you can copy from either Google Sheets or from Excel, whatever you're using. The role of the stakeholders. You could put a brief description of what their role is. It might just be a one word, or it might be a whole lot of information. Let's use the wrap column so that you can see everything that's been done. And where do their requirements span across? Now it's up to you, however you want to document their requirements and how their requirements span across the project. This is all up to you. So make that in the middle. All of these, let's align them to all be in the middle. It just makes it look better. All right. And as far as their expectations, again, it's up to you as a project manager, however you want to keep their expectations defined. Just try to high level it. Don't go into too much detail. Now, in terms of their power and in terms of their interest, influence, and all those descriptions, it's really up to you. Some people choose to show a high level of power as being a red, a low level of power as being a green, intermediate there, moderate, a yellow. So we could just use a symbol format, and we could choose to show blue is ice cold, red is boiling hot, in economies of scale. So if this stakeholder is extremely influential, this one is somewhere in the middle, this one is on the lower level, and this one is just as cold as ice, well, we could use symbols to just show. So those stakeholders that have a really high level of power, those are the ones you definitely want to keep your eye on. And we could actually get fancier with this, right? One of the other methods I use is, as opposed to having these symbols, we can actually have on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, what is the power? On a scale of 1 to 10, what's the interest? And you could give each of those stakeholders a score. So look at my video for the risk register, and you can take that whole concept of a risk score and conditional formatting, and based on the stakeholders that have the highest score of power times interest, those are the stakeholders you want to manage close versus those that you just keep informed, and so on and so forth. And you get the idea. All right, we can take this same approach and we could use it for interest. But for now, we'll just go ahead and use a text format in the interest of time. When it comes to power and influence and impact, we could do the same. You could say, oh, a stakeholder has a really high impact on the project, and you might want to use that same indicator concept. And we could have, again, similar. Like that. And we'll just take that same concept and just populate them accordingly. And as far as the theme, this is the Stakeholder Engagement Assessment Matrix. Now, for this one, we could have a drop-down list, and we could have the earns less mnemonic. So you know what this means? Unaware, resistant, neutral. You have some stakeholders who they're neither resistant nor supportive. Then we have supportive stakeholders, and then we have leading, those who are in a leading position, right? So you could use this to show their current position. Where are they? Are they unaware? And let's go ahead and format this accordingly so it's right there in the middle. So are they unaware? Are they supportive? Are they leading? Are they resistant? Are they neutral? And so on. Okay, of course, you want to keep this close to the vest, right? You don't want people to be aware of this because when people understand how you've categorized them, it could lead to some unsatisfactory behaviors from stakeholders. So my advice to every PM is you got to be smart in dealing with your stakeholders. When you've got a register such as this, showing power, and things like this, it gets rather sensitive. So my advice to you is keep this extremely close to the vest. Okay, now as you proceed through the project, you could have other categories that you introduce. Maybe your firm has got some unique categories. Feel free to put those in. The bottom line is that it is fulfilling the purpose. You don't want to put too much information, but you don't want to put too little either. You want to make sure that this really helps you in effectively engaging your stakeholders. You could also, as you continue to build this out, convert this to be an all-in-one. One of the problems we have in project management a lot of times is you go to companies and they tell you, Phil, are you bringing me more work to do because I already have enough work? So managing a stakeholder management plan and a stakeholder register could be cumbersome. For that reason, I often tell people to include this category, right? This SEAM category is really more of a planning effort, right? So when you understand where a stakeholder currently is, you can insert another column and you can have this as being your engagement strategy. So you buy one and get one free, right? So engagement strategy, just like that. And your engagement strategy is going to be how to engage these stakeholders. How are you going to get them further committed if you want? So for these different stakeholders, the engagement strategy, it could be a regular touch point, and to be quite honest, if you are in a PMO and thinking how you're going to roll this out, one of the good things to do is give people some options so that across all your projects, you have common entries, right? And people don't need to think too much. So you could actually give people an off-ramp if they're stuck. And that would be things like a drop-down list of pre-fill strategies, like regular touch point, could be weekly meeting. It could be maybe just email. It could be newsletter. It could be phone call. It could be daily scrum. It could be maybe invite them to the retro. It could be that the demo is sufficient, and things like that. And we could allow multiple values per cell, right? We could allow people to have multiple values in a cell. But anyway, that's beyond the scope of this. We'll just go ahead and do it as we have. And here you can see when you hover over it, it shows you what methods you can use for that individual. So remember, as you go through this, my friends, this piece right here is really more of a stakeholder management or engagement plan. Stakeholder engagement is what PMI calls it. Some people call it stakeholder management, really depends. But whatever your strategy is going to be for these individuals, just decide what it's going to be. All right, so I'll go ahead and choose a few more items. Some people could be multiple. Some people, maybe it's just a weekly meeting. One of the things you don't want to do, though, is inundate your stakeholders with so much stuff that, at the end of the day, they become tired of you and tired of the project, which is why you always want to ask, as far as the requirements are concerned, you can ask specifically, what is too much? When will I be engaging you too much? Are you satisfied with the engagement so far? And questions like that. All right. And there you have it, my friends. So far, we've taken a look at the stakeholder register. And towards the end, over to the right, we've got a SEAM, which is a stakeholder. Let me go ahead and spell it out. The SEAM just stands for Stakeholder Engagement Assessment Matrix. It's a bit of a mouthful. Stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. I don't even know if it will let me do that. Okay, so it's capped it, but stakeholder engagement assessment matrix, you get the idea. So you can have both your stakeholder register and your stakeholder engagement plan, and that just saves time and effort. Okay, I hope you found this to be helpful. If you got any questions, put them in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and if there's a sheet or a tool that you want me to address in Smartsheet that you haven't already seen on the channel, go ahead and leave a comment, and I'll get back to you. Thank you very much. And don't forget, there's a playlist of all of my Smartsheet videos. Make sure you take a look at those as well. All right, my friends, talk to you later. Bye for now.